SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, hello everyone. In this particular lecture, I would be discussing the internal debates within the field of urban political ecology, the internal schisms and debates, and also touching base on new political possibilities, that Singidu, Heinen and Arnstone, discuss in their latest book that came out like 2 years back in 2019. So, yes, I will be discussing internal debates between this methodological cityism and how methodological cityism in urban political ecology scholarship has been critiqued by urban political ecologists themselves, because they say that methodological cityism is a reductionist lens of analysis or perspectives, the idea is to basically understand urbanization as a process. So, urbanization of nature is a more validated or is a more acceptable domain or kind of methodology than methodological cityism, which is otherwise a reductionist lens of analysis that had developed in the urban political ecology scholarship. So, we will also see that whether these criticisms are also absolutely valid or not. So, we will also discuss the propositions by other urban political ecologists who also had participated in this debate by saying that no, this charge on the urban political ecology scholar is actually it's absolutely not right. So, we will discuss these debates about methodological cityism and urbanization of nature within the domain of UP, and I will talk about the more recent trends that had developed in this particular field, that have emanated now in this field, and finally I will be talking about new political possibilities. So, before I expose you to the critique of methodological cityism, I thought it important to discuss this critique by Monstad long back 2009. So, Monstad in 2009 he wrote an article where he discussed urban political ecology of network infrastructures, and also said that what are the limits or what are the limitations within UP so far as discussions on networked infrastructures are concerned. So, he says that that the main characteristics of socio-technical systems remained underexposed within UP, because very less attention was paid on for example, function for socio-economic development, and very less attention was paid to the material metabolism in cities, and also the path dependency. So, path dependency is again I think something which had been discussed by the urban environmental historians to a great extent, but according to Monstad, the urban political ecology of networked infrastructure scholarship or literature remain quite limited in terms of shedding light on path dependency or path dependent trajectories. And the solution that has been provided by Monstad in the same article is that he says that if you really need to do a robust analysis on political ecology of infrastructures or urban networked infrastructures, you have to converge and cross fertilize several fields together. So, this diagram which I have taken from Monstad, I think to a great extent explains like what are the different domains that he is talking about, which should converge to provide us with a more comprehensive, a kind of widely encompassing and all comprehensive perspective to understand urban or networked urban infrastructures. But the major critique or on which we find a very exciting otherwise internal debate is the critique on or of methodological cityism. So, Angelo and Washmouth, they wrote an article which was published in volume 39 of International Journal of Urban and Regional Research, where they talked about how UP, though UP is, they said that UP is a significant field in terms of, introducing critical political ecological studies to the urban settings, and also in terms of re-theorizing the city as the product of metabolic processes of socio-natural transformation, but at the same time UP has failed to deliver one of its programmatic statements. So, what was the programmatic statement? The programmatic statement was to mobilize a Lefebvrean theoretical framework to trouble traditional distinctions between urban, rural, society, nature by exploring urbanization as a global process. And they said, unfortunately, UP has not been able to deliver this particular task or this programmatic statement of mobilizing this Lefebvrean paradigm. And so they charged UPE scholarship with that this scholarship, they said, that has become bogged down in what they call methodological cityism, where the city is only understood as a site and not as a process, right. So, and they say that if you see all the different works by the urban political ecologists in the earlier decades, so they had mainly discussed social production of nature within the limits of the city, but not beyond that. And they considered this to be a major failure by UP scholars or the UP domain to provide insights into the new era of planetary urbanization. So, whether you are comfortable with this term or this connotation planetary urbanization or not, that is a different thing altogether, but I mean there is no doubt about the fact that the world is dramatically it is getting urbanized, rapidly it is getting urbanized with a whole lot of implications on social and ecological aspects. So, finally, Angelo and Washmouth said that yes, the socio-natural moment has been met in UP, but not the Lefebvrean moment. So, I mean this definitely said that in the work of Singedu, the seminal work that I discussed in the part 1 of UP presentation or lecture, we have seen that how Singedu at least try to discuss both I mean political ecology of city and the political ecology of the urbanization process and their interrelationship, and he talked about different connotation, different meanings and significance of the urban as a process, the urban as a site, the urban as the outcome of the process, etc. So, in early theorizations several works by Singedu and Keel, they attempted to insert nature into the production of cities, and they also asserted the centrality of urbanization to broader socio-natural processes. But then somehow, according to Angelo and Washmouth, UP lost this Lefebvrean flavor or this Lefebvrean commitment, and they narrowly started focusing on city as the empirical research site. So, the entire analysis then seemed to be surrounding just on the city and within the limits of the city. So, the city became the empirical site of reference. So, in their criticism they also discuss this particular book, and they say that all the chapters that we will find in this book, these chapters also unfortunately remain restricted I mean so far as the analysis of the urbanization or urban environment is concerned, because these chapters also mainly try to talk about social production of nature within cities, within limits of cities, and there is only one exception though, because there is a chapter by de Pelot, where Pelot actually talks about the links, or he actually makes the connection between high-tech consumerism in western cities and environmental degradation in the computer recycling operations in the global south, but that is the only exception in this particular book. Otherwise, all the chapters, they narrowly focuses on the city as the analytical or empirical frame of reference. So, David Harvey's argument in this particular article, very strong article, again cities or urbanization, that urbanization must then be understood not in terms of some socio-organizational entity called the city, the theoretical object that so many geographers, demographers and sociologists erroneously presume, but as the production of specific and quite heterogeneous spatio-temporal forms embedded within different kinds of social action. So, this conceptualization or this understanding, it really has gained fresh grounds and new meanings within the within today's provocative context of the urban Anthropocene or Urbanocene. Again, whether you agree with the, whether you are ready to accept these terminologies or these connotations or not, that is a different question, but no one can deny, or we definitely understand how today's how the intensity, rate, scale, pace and intensity of today's urbanization is so very significantly or starkly different from the urbanization processes that the world visualized a few decades back. So, we all know this now. And so, within this transformative context, I think that David Harvey's this formulation, it kind of has gained significant insights, or it has gained fresh significance in that sense. So, also Angelo and Washmut's criticism that that urban particle ecology is kind of failing by just focusing on the city, it is failing to offer analytical insights to the contemporary era or the process of planetary urbanization. But then I came across this particular article by Connolly, again published in the same journal, International Journal of Urban and Regional Research, in volume 43. So, Angelo and Washmut published in 2014, volume 39, and Connolly published the article in 2018 in volume number 43. And this article can actually be kind of understood as a response to Angelo and Washmut's formulation of rather the charge of methodological cityism on urban political ecology or urban political ecologies for that matter. Connolly shows, he says, and he does so by reviewing various strands of UP scholarship, and he says that UP scholarship have always moved beyond the city. So, this charge to a great extent is not absolutely true. So, the fundamental pretext on which this charge has been brought against urban particle ecology is somewhere faulty. That is what Connolly shows. He establishes, he not only demonstrates, but he definitely demonstrates with whole lot of empirical evidences to his argument. So, he says that UP never remained kind of restricted to the limits of the city, and because it has considered various metabolisms, circulations of human, non-humans, connecting cities with places outside of their borders at a variety of scales. So, and then definitely Connolly says that it is important even to make more significant advancements in the field, that is for sure, and he also suggests how the methodological approach of the site multiple, which we will discuss in our subsequent slides, that how the methodological approach of the site multiple and its focus on everyday practices and lived experiences can be useful for researching diverse urban phenomena and their more than human connections. So, he says that yes, it is important to recompose and reassemble political ecological approach in studying urbanization as a process, but before that it is also important to decompose the arguments against urban political ecology. And how does he do so? How did he do that? So, he definitely discusses Singadu, he discusses Kaika, he discusses several works by Singadu. So, he says that in the earlier works by Singadu, this I think Angela and Washmouth also said, but Connolly highlights all these particular points because he wants to kind of free, it seems like he passionately tries to free UP from the charge of methodological citizen. So, he shows that how Singadu actually he had talked about social natural flows and interactions taking place within the city that are not bounded within the local side. And for example, Los Angeles has been discussed. So, how the socio-ecological transformation of desert landscapes and subsequent manufacture of silicon landscapes is paralleled by the simultaneous remaking of the surrounding watersheds and development of new engineering projects. So, the relationship between cities and their larger or the wider environments definitely had been discussed since long back in UP scholarship. So, and he also seems to kind of quote another recent work with which he was inspired. This is by Loftus and March 2016 work. So, where they have said that UP has actually never been constrained by the urban form, but has rather developed an approach that always moves beyond the local to understand the broader ensemble of socio-ecological relations out of which specific urban forms are produced. So, this has always been the case. So, why is this, why should the charge of methodological citizen be valid at all? And the Angela and Washmouth also charge Maria Kaika with this with methodological citism, and they specifically mentioned this particular book City of Flows, which we had already discussed in part 1 of this UP chunk. So, they said that Maria Kaika definitely she focused on cities like Athens and London, but Connolly shows and says, and this, I think I agree with him that Kaika definitely she demonstrated the choreography of materials and actors, places that are enrolled within the larger process of urbanization. Similarly, in liquid power, for example, Singadu discusses the water engineering and infrastructural projects in Spain, and how it had kind of impacted the overall urban and beyond urban hydroscapes. So, so yes, I mean urbanization as process had always gained focus in the UP scholarship or literature. So, with this, then Connolly suggests that UPE should keep expanding, definitely keep advancing, because it has to offer whole lot of if not solutions, but whole lot of how do I say, like insights, significant insights and inputs for us to kind of address the contemporary challenges being offered by the by planetary urbanization or the Urbanocene. So, site multiple is something on which now the UP scholars are actually focusing on. So, what is the site multiple? So, the site multiple actually has been developed by Lepowski and colleagues, and they to a great extent they seem to be inspired by Anne-Marie Moll and her concept of the body multiple, and the site multiple is all about how the urban is actually distributed, it is patchy and not necessarily one coherent space. So, city is not a site, but it is a process, right. And so, the whole focus is actually on actions and not just the things. And so, cityness again occupies occupies significance in this understanding. So, cityness is all about how cities may be made up of something other or more than the urban, right. So, beyond metrocentricity And for example, Whatmore talks about tracing the routine interweaving. So, I told you earlier that why this intertwining, enmeshing, interacting, interweaving, these are so important. I mean, these are the fundamental, this is the fundamental jargon or vocabulary of urban particle ecology, ecological research, because I mean, through this cities are actually explained as hybrids and social natural assemblages, and cities kind of imply and signify not only the urban, but definitely more than urban, more than human interactions. So, Whatmore talks about tracing or the significance of tracing the routine interweavings operating in and through cities, which link the various people, non-humans, resources and infrastructures comprising urban spaces with other non-urban sites. So, I find this this explanation to be so comprehensive, right. It is very all pervasive in that sense. And it is important for us to discuss the difference between multi-sited and the site multiple here. So, multi-sited is basically when researchers they study or they explore a particular phenomena across multiple sites. And how is site multiple different from this multi-sited? Because again I am repeating, in multi-sited studies, the researchers they focus on a particular phenomena and they take up that phenomena and study it in several sites or multiple sites. On the other hand, in site multiple, phenomena and places they are kind of understood as enacted through practices that are largely diffused and scattered, right. And here again, as I mentioned, that the city does not remain any site anymore. I mean, the urban becomes a process. So, and everyday urbanizations everyday urbanisms, felt experiences, lived practices and experiences, situatedness, I mean everything that goes or go into the shaping of urban environment take such an important role. So, that is why this focus on the site multiple and several cutting edge and path breaking works focusing on or rather deploying this site multiple framework is a recent phenomena within the urban political ecology scholarship, which is quite exciting, because to a great extent I mean it seems to be a methodological breakthrough or analytical and conceptual watershed, enabling researchers to kind of even scramble the binary between global local, between global north and global south, between urban rural, and definitely between nature and culture. And so, it will be fascinating if you can really go through some of these works deploying this site multiple framework. Yes, so Gustafsson, this megalopolitan political ecology approach is again quite important, and it works across the nature, society and urban rural matrix to account for the flows of people, objects, resources and knowledge that constitute regional urbanization. So, in that sense, like UP literature is also now focusing on suburbanization and post suburbanization, and these are fundamental concepts helping us to understand city as subsystem located within a broader urban region. So, more than human or more than urban geographies and more than human world, these are the fundamental these are the key ideas, these are the key highlights in UP literature now. So, this is not new again, definitely in the earlier works also. Just let us think about Singadu, let us think about Kaika, let us think about the works by Heinen, let us think about the works by Gandhi. So, I mean they had definitely talked about more than urban geographies and more than human world, because and also after a particular point of time like UPE also had significantly drawn from Ant or the actor network theory, and the scholars have been significantly inspired and influenced by Bruno Latour and his idea about hybridity, assemblage, etc. So, but what is important is that more I mean UP is making fresh and further advancement in this particular field, and new researches on these lines are flooding the scene. And unpacking several gametes and sub-gametes, these kind of gametes and sub-gametes within the UP literature. So, for example, UP has now also drawn insights from landscape political ecology, and so for example, let us think about Paul Robinson's works on the landscape and Connolly's own work on swiftlet farming. So, it is a very interesting work where he shows that swiftlet is a bird. So, you can see the picture here, and they are very interesting because their nests are actually edible. So, human beings, people consume their, so it is a delicacy actually. So, and Connolly he traces this whole story within the context of Malaysia. Yes, and he shows that how swiftlet birds, they are encouraged to build nests in urban infrastructures and not in caves, because he discusses the entire system through which swift-led nests are actually kind of I mean the birds are encouraged to build their nests on the rooftop of commercial and residential buildings. And he discusses its impact on the ecology, on long term public health, well-being, urban heritage, etc. And these kind of studies, with the focus on birds, with focus on animals, these studies provide agency. So, agency is attributed to the non-human in UP analysis. So, which illustrate the crucial role of animals or more than humans, in altering urban form, aesthetics and everyday life in often unanticipated ways. So, the beyond human agency is something in which urban political ecology is focusing quite a lot. And now, another final trend also we can see now is a new wave of engagement with urban water infrastructures to understand the nature of extended urbanization. So, again urban water, it had always remained a very significant component within UP scholarship, but we can see and trace a new wave of engagement where scholars study the connection between water infrastructures and in city and its larger ecological infrastructure and its wider environment. So, for example, there are works which show how the reliance on electricity in particular cities to a great extent are determined by by hydropower generation in places that are remote, that are quite distant from the cities. And this is something again which is a very significant theme or important key theme, so far as urban environmental history is concerned. This we had discussed in detail, I guess, when we discussed urban environmental history, but urban political ecologists are now they are really interested to kind of focus on urbanization as a process. So, this whole idea of and the charge that UP is reductionist, UP is restrictive in the sense that it only tries to discuss city as a site and tries to analyze city as the main empirical point of reference is absolutely not true. So, finally, this is the latest book that I had come across so far as UP is concerned, and this has an interesting title, and this is an edited volume by Anston and Henin, Anston and Singadu, and so there is a clarion call by the editors, and the editors say that why we need to kind of insert or reinsert new political possibilities through UP literature. So, what should be the motivation of the urban political ecologists at this particular critical juncture when socio-ecological inequalities had sharpened, when contestations are proliferating. So, what kind of thing, what kind of agenda should urban political ecologists have? And they say that we have to think about emancipatory politics, but then what could emancipatory politics be about in our time? And interestingly, this book just came out in 2009. and after that the world now is facing the COVID crisis, and definitely with the COVID crisis, some more significant additions or some more detailed discussions and understanding about inequity and injustice had kind of had occupied and should occupy the scene, and that is why I think this entire rationale of new political possibilities and imaginaries and imaginations within UPE is it's such a it's imperative, it's a necessity. So, I have also pasted the table of contents here, and so that you can understand what is the exact situation or position of the UP scholarship now. So, yes, with this I would like to conclude I mean this discussion on urban political ecology so far as the global literature is concerned, and then we would move into the urban political ecology scholarship within the context of India. So, I am just quite passionate, and I feel motivated to read the last line from this book. So, where the editors say that we still have hope, and the hope is to contribute discussions that can expand and rearrange critical environmental studies to remain relevant in a time of deepening depoliticization and the rise of post-truth politics. So, let us all plunge into this, and this makes more sense now in this COVID and the forthcoming post-COVID world. So, yeah. So, yes, in this particular lecture we have discussed methodological cityism or urbanization of nature, and shown that UP definitely from the very beginning only, it definitely already it was talking about urbanization as a process and not urban as a site. So, we discussed the more recent trends, we talked about more than urban geography, the site multiple, how urban political ecologists are deploying this framework in their research. We discussed more than human entanglements. We have discussed how the animal world, the more than human world are being given agency, and are being given agency not in that sense. So, what I am trying to say is that why it is important to also unpack more than human agency into the emergence of the urban as the product of the metabolic process. And we also discussed new political possibilities and imaginations within urban political ecology domain. So, thank you.